Hello, this is TelecomTV. We are at the Internet of Insurance event in Shoreditch, where it's not sunny, it's very wet for June. And I'm talking with Craig Beattie, who is an insurance analyst with Scant. Craig, welcome.
Thank you.
It's a quick 5-minute chat about your take on what's happening in the insurance industry. Off camera, you were saying that you think we're approaching an inflection point as far as the insurance industry is concerned. What do you mean by that?
Well, as we look back on the history of the insurance industry, right, it's been around for centuries and actually hasn't changed a great deal. Even if you go back in the UK industry, people will say, oh, well, it was significantly changed back in the 80s when people started being able to get car insurance on the phone instead of going to the brokers. And in the 90s you got home insurance, and in the late 90s it went online, and then we've got price comparisons websites. But actually all we've done up until this point is really digitize the way we used to do it. What you're filling in on confused.com or GoCompare or whatever like that is actually just the paper form simplified, made easier to read, and there's lots of good work gone into that. Don't get me wrong, there's lots of great things that the insurance industry have done. But actually what it's really doing is it's just digitized that old paper process. There's lots of interesting technologies that are coming in that are making that more efficient. Drones are making it more efficient to inspect roofs and inspect damage and catastrophes and that sort of thing. But actually that's still activities that the insurance industry used to do before drones existed. It's just a bit more digital now. It's digitizing the activities. I think what we're seeing with the Internet of Things specifically is there's a great opportunity here to engage with customers differently, engage with risk differently, and actually engage with people about their risk at the point when they're about to realize it, if you like. So engage with somebody as their pipe starts leaking about the fact that it's leaking, or even predict the failure of a component in a car, or even, and we were hearing from Nest earlier on, telling the insurance company to tell the customer the batteries have gone in your fire alarm, which sounds small, but actually that could save lives, never mind the property in there. The great challenge here though is there's lots of opportunity here, but what is it that the customer really wants? And actually what is the insurer going to be offering in the future? Up until now, really not much change in terms of those products.
So, does the industry understand what the customer needs and how they're going to provide it? Because, all right, there's a sense there's a sea change happening, and again, you know, looking back in due course, maybe able to say, oh yeah, evident that's when that happened, but we don't know now, do we?
No, absolutely not. I mean, what everyone would like is what the very rich get at the moment, or the very large corporations. It's an engagement with the insurance industry that's very person-heavy, risk managers, experts, engaged and discussing with you, these are your risks. You've got this fine art collection. You really should be looking at this kind of level of humidity if you want that to continue to be worth something in the future, and really engaging with them around risks and issues. What Internet of Things is doing is it making it cheap and accessible to do that for everyone, but it requires an awful lot of sensors, right? So rather than having a human being come around and have a look at your house, it's about having the devices in there, but it requires a lot of intelligence in terms of taking that data, interpreting it, and giving the correct advice at the correct time. Now, one of the great challenges right now is there are a small number of people out there who are happy to give away lots of data for a small amount of return. There are a much larger group of people out there who don't want anyone accessing their data. And there's a small group of people who believe that zombies will come and they're locking themselves in their basements, who are never going to buy this kind of product. Now, the fundamental issue here, though, is we can build for those different groups as they exist now, but the fact is those groups are changing, actually. 10 years ago, if you wanted to get your light to turn on automatically at a certain time when you clicked a button, well, actually you didn't have an iPhone 10 years ago. And the only way of really doing that was you had a fancy switch over there, and you probably had a walkie-talkie type radio device to do it. These days it's very easy to do that. There are Belkin devices you can go to the high street and buy. They'll hook up to your phone, and actually you can hook up, if you haven't come across an app called If This Then That, IFTTT, you can hook that up and say, when the sun goes down, turn my lamp on. And that's just relatively easy to do. And that's getting easier. We saw yesterday in the keynote from Apple how they're looking at embedding the home app within a phone and making it easier to integrate this ecosystem. So we're moving from a world where it was difficult to get the data in the first place to a world where it's going to be absurdly easy, to a world where, and this might be our children or our grandchildren, where they expect everything to have the data, and that if they buy a teddy bear that doesn't have some kind of concierge services around maintaining the teddy bear, it's clearly broken. So we're moving through this world. So it's all very well insurers building something for today's customer and different segments of today's customer. But the fact is, consumers don't know what they want, and they will be a different kind of consumer within 10 years. We'll have a different kind of insurance industry. So this is the scale of change we're dealing with. Any insurer that is going in there and saying, I've got a 5-year business plan around a home connected device thing, well, actually, even the communication methods in the home are inappropriate at the moment. They're using they're using the current version of Bluetooth. If they've got the Philips devices, then they're using the Zigbee standard for communicating, which is already superseded by Thread. The latest version of Bluetooth is going to be more appropriate. So we're going to see a new wave of cheaper, better connected, better life in terms of battery devices coming out in a few years using technology that isn't even available today. So to have a 5-year business case around a proposition around today's technologies makes no sense at all. So this is where we are. We're at this inflection point, this point of great change where nothing's really happening because many people aren't buying these connected home devices, but a great deal is happening at the same time. And there's a lot of experimentation going on, which is really about determining what will the insurance industry look like in 15 years.
Absolutely superb summation. Really enjoyed that. Craig Beattie, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.